In a quiet town where whispers fade, a girl with hands of steel is made. A broken console hums to life, awakening courage through shadow and strife. Welcome back, Saber Shadow, it calls, as destiny rises from dusty halls. Underestimated, mocked, unseen, she will become the power between. Asterisk, before we dive in, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a thrilling story like this one. Now, let's step into the world of Willow Creek. Samantha Salm Carter tightened her grip on the screwdriver, her hands shaking not from fear, but from frustration. She crouched beside the old console in the corner of Willow Creek's small-town library, a dusty relic from the town's forgotten history. The beige metal casing was scratched, the buttons sticky with age, and a faint smell of burned circuitry drifted from its interior. Most people in town had written it off years ago, a useless machine from a bygone era. But Sam wasn't. Most people. Why do you even bother? A voice sneered behind her dot. Sam didn't flinch, though the words stung. She looked over her shoulder to see Mark Reynolds, the self-proclaimed tech expert of Willow Creek High, leaning casually against a shelf stacked with encyclopedias. His smirk was irritatingly confident. This thing hasn't worked in decades. You'll just make it worse. I've fixed things that were impossible, Sam replied calmly, her brown eyes meeting his. She refused to let him see her doubt. Maybe you should try opening your mind instead of your mouth. Mark laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that echoed in the quiet library. Sure, little Miss Genius. Go ahead and blow yourself up if it makes you feel smart. Sam exhaled slowly, centering herself. She had learned long ago not to let people like Mark get under her skin. Growing up as the only daughter of a mechanic and a librarian, she had spent most of her life proving herself in small ways, repairing radios, fixing her father's tools, even restoring a rusted motorcycle in their cramped garage. People often underestimated her because of her quiet demeanor, but Sam had never relied on loud words to show strength. She let results speak for themselves. As she opened the console's back panel, a small cascade of dust fell onto the floor. Sam's fingers nimbly examined the wiring, noting the scorched components and frayed connections. Her mind raced with possibilities. What if it was more than just old electronics? What if the console held a secret? Something that, until now, the town had overlooked? Mark leaned closer, curiosity now mixed with condescension. You really think you can fix that old thing? You don't even know what's inside it. I know enough to start, Sam said, tracing the path of a damaged wire. She ignored him, focusing on her work. There was a rhythm to repairing machines, a conversation almost, between human and hardware. And Sam was fluent in that language. Hours passed. The library emptied as the afternoon sunlight faded into a golden haze. Sam worked meticulously, soldering connections, replacing burnt-out chips, testing circuits with a handheld multimeter. Every time a spark leapt from the board, her heart jumped, but she stayed steady, breathing slowly, determined. Finally, she leaned back, wiping sweat from her brow. The console whirred faintly, lights flickering in hesitant acknowledgement. She held her breath. Then silence. A minute passed. 2. Sam's fingers hovered over the controls, unsure if she had succeeded or if she was about to be proven a fool. See? I told you, Mark said smugly, arms crossed. It's still dead. Guess even you have your limits. And then it happened. A clear, metallic voice echoed from the console speakers. Welcome back, Saber Shadow. Sam froze. The hairs on her arms stood on end. Her heart pounded, but she refused to step back. This was not just a repaired console. This was something else entirely. Mark's face went from smirk to slack-jawed disbelief in seconds. What? That's impossible. Sam's mind raced. Who? Who's Saber Shadow? She whispered, more to herself than to him. The voice spoke again, calm and authoritative. All systems restored. Welcome, Commander Carter. Sam's knees nearly buckled. Commander Carter? Systems restored? She had fixed a machine, but this. Machine seemed to know her, knew more than anyone in Willow Creek could ever know. Mark stepped back, unsure whether to run or continue staring in awe. This can't be real. It's real, Sam said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her: fear, excitement, disbelief. She looked at the console with new respect. This wasn't just a relic. It was a doorway dot. As she examined the blinking lights, she realized the stakes. This machine, somehow, had purpose. And by fixing it, she had awakened something that had been dormant for decades. Something or someone was waiting for her. For the first time in her life, Sam felt the full weight of responsibility. The world she knew, the quiet town of Willow Creek, might suddenly be much larger, much more dangerous than she had imagined. But she didn't flinch. She had been underestimated her whole life, mocked, told she wasn't capable, dismissed, but she had never backed down. And she wasn't about to start. Now. Sam knew one thing with clarity. This console, this voice, and whatever it represented, it was her challenge. And she would meet it head-on as the sun set over Willow Creek, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. Sam sat cross-legged on the library floor, staring at the console. Saber Shadow had called her back, and she was ready to answer. The following morning, the quiet streets of Willow Creek seemed smaller, almost ordinary, as if nothing had changed. But for Sam Carter, everything had shifted. The console sat on her workbench in the corner of her small garage, humming faintly, its lights pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. She hadn't slept. She had spent the night trying to understand what she had awakened. Coffee in hand, she stared at the console, flipping through the old manuals and notes she had found in the library. There was no mention anywhere of Saber Shadow or Commander Carter. Every circuit diagram, every line of technical description referred only to a standard prototype training system, a military-grade console supposedly decommissioned decades ago. Yet the voice had known her name. That was impossible. Maybe it's some kind of a eye prank, Mark had suggested when she called him that morning. Prank? Sam's voice was sharp. Do you hear yourself? The thing called me by name, then used military designations. This isn't a joke. And I'm not laughing. Mark hesitated. He wasn't used to being dismissed, but he had no real explanation. I mean, maybe it's some kind of advanced memory recall system? Something that responds to your neural signature? Sam shook her head. Whatever it is, it's not normal. And if it's military-grade tech, there's more to this than anyone in Willow Creek could imagine. By mid-morning, Sam had made a decision. She had to dig deeper, and not just for herself. Something told her the console was more than a machine. She loaded the back of her old pickup with tools, spare parts, and a laptop. Her destination was the abandoned Willow Creek Military Supply Depot, a place no one visited anymore except the occasional thrill-seeker as she drove. Sam's thoughts drifted to her childhood. Her father, now long gone, had always encouraged her curiosity. Never let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do, he had said. Those words echoed now louder than ever. She could still hear the sneers of classmates who had mocked her for being the little girl who tinkers with junk. Those same classmates had doubted her competence, her intelligence, and her resilience. And yet, here she was, racing toward a mystery they could never even dream of understanding. The depot loomed ahead, gray and decayed, with rust eating away at its corrugated walls. Sam parked cautiously, keeping the truck's engine running. The gates were padlocked, but Sam was used to obstacles. She had learned to improvise, to find paths where others only saw barriers. With a crowbar and some patience, she lifted the lock and slipped inside. Inside. The air was thick with dust, a scent of old machinery and oil hanging like a stubborn fog. Sam moved quietly, scanning rows of abandoned equipment and crates. She found a control room tucked away in the corner, untouched by time, and her pulse quickened. This room was different. It radiated a quiet authority, like a library of secrets waiting to be read. She unpacked her tools and began examining the dusty consoles and monitors. As she worked, she spoke aloud, almost as if addressing someone invisible. "If you're really here, Saber Shadow, I need to know why. I need to know what you want from me." For a long moment, there was no answer. Then, a soft mechanical hum filled the room, and a single monitor flickered to life. Words appeared on the screen. "Commander Carter, your training begins." Sam blinked. Training? She had fixed a console. She hadn't signed up for military drills. Training? She muttered, frustration creeping in. "I don't even know what you are, and now you want me to train?" The voice responded, calm and unyielding. "All systems recognize your capabilities. You are ready to awaken, to assume the mantle of Saber Shadow. Your first mission begins now." Sam's stomach tightened. She was used to challenges, but this was unlike anything she had faced. It was no longer about fixing machines or earning respect. It was about stepping into a world she had only glimpsed in dreams and late-night fantasies. Hours turned into days. Sam devoted herself entirely to understanding the console, deciphering its systems, following every instruction from the mysterious AI. Each task tested her patience, her intellect, and her endurance. Sometimes she failed. Sometimes circuits sparked violently, sending shocks across her fingers. But she persisted. Word of her obsession began to spread through Willow Creek. Some whispered she had gone mad. Others called her reckless. Mark, still trying to maintain a foothold, visited occasionally, offering advice tinged with skepticism. "You're losing perspective," he warned one afternoon. "This isn't real life. You can't let a machine control your mind." Sam's response was quiet, but firm. "I'm not letting it control me. I'm learning from it. And if that scares you, maybe you should reconsider underestimating people." By the end of the week, she had unlocked something extraordinary. The console wasn't just a machine. It was a training system for a covert operations program long thought abandoned. It adapted to her skills, challenged her mentally and physically, and, astonishingly, remembered her father's work. Somehow, the AI recognized her lineage, her innate aptitude, and was grooming her to assume a role she had never imagined. Yet with every victory came a new tension. Sam felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest. If the world discovered the console, would it be seized? Could it fall into the wrong hands? And more personal, could she truly rise to the level the AI expected of her? The voice spoke again one evening, softer this time. "Commander, your resolve will be tested. Betrayal may come from where you least expect it." Sam froze. The words weren't threats, they were warnings. And as the orange sunset streamed through the depot windows, she realized that training wasn't the only battle awaiting her. The town she had always called home, the people who doubted her, and even friends she trusted, could all become part of a struggle far larger than anyone anticipated. She clenched her fists, feeling the familiar surge of determination that had carried her through every challenge of her life. She had been underestimated before. She had been mocked, dismissed, and laughed at, but she had never backed down. And now, with Saber Shadow awakening inside her, she understood that her journey had just begun. The world outside the depot was quiet, oblivious to the storm that was building in Willow Creek. But Sam Carter was ready. And whatever came next, betrayal, danger, or the unveiling of truth, she would face it head on. She was no longer just Sam Carter, tinkerer and underdog. She was Commander Carter. She was Saber Shadow, and she would not fail. The days following her breakthrough at the depot were a blur of focus and preparation. Sam Carter moved like a woman possessed, navigating her small town with purpose while keeping her newfound mission a secret. The people of Willow Creek, blissfully unaware, went about their routines, neighbors tending gardens, the diner filling with chatter, children laughing in the streets. To them, Sam was still the girl who tinkers with junk. To Sam, nothing was ordinary anymore. The console pulsed. With quiet authority in her garage, a steady heartbeat guiding her progress. She had learned to anticipate its challenges, mastering simulations that tested her intellect, reflexes, and endurance. Yet even as she honed her skills, a gnawing unease began to grow. Someone or something was watching Dot. It started subtly. The mailbox was slightly ajar, even though she had closed it the night before. A shadow flickered in the corner of her eye as she walked home from the depot at twilight. And most unsettling of all, the library, the very place where she had first awakened Saber Shadow, felt different. The dusty shelves seemed colder, the silence heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Mark Reynolds noticed the change before anyone else. He cornered her one morning outside the hardware store, his expression less smug than worried. "You've been acting strange," he said, avoiding her gaze. "The depot, the console. It's more than a hobby now. I don't know what's happening, but I think you're getting in over your head." Sam looked at him, unwavering. "I'm not scared of a challenge, and I'm not asking for your approval." Her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of conviction. "This is bigger than either of us, Mark, and it's real. Every failure, every test, it's preparing me for something the town doesn't even know exists." Mark opened his mouth to argue, but a low hum from Sam's backpack, a portable unit she had rigged to the console, cut him off. The voice, calm yet commanding, whispered, "Commander Carter, danger approaches. Trust no one completely." Mark's eyes widened. "Wait, it talks to you outside the depot?" Sam didn't answer. Her mind raced. Someone was moving through the town, subtly, silently. And whoever it was, they knew about the console, or they were somehow tied to the very program that had created Saber Shadow. By nightfall, the first confrontation arrived. Sam had returned to her garage after running errands, ready to continue her training, when the front door rattled violently. She froze, her hand brushing the edge of the console. "Sam Carter," a voice called, sharp and demanding. "Step away from the equipment, now." Two men emerged from the shadows, clad in dark jackets that bore no insignia but radiated authority. Sam's instincts kicked in. She backed toward the corner, keeping her hands visible, assessing her options. "Don't understand what you're holding," one said. His tone was cold, professional. "That device belongs to the government. Step aside." Sam shook her head, refusing to be intimidated. "It belongs to no one but the person who fixed it. And that's me." The taller of the two men laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. "You think tinkering qualifies you as its master? You don't even know what you're dealing with." The words triggered a memory of all the times she had been underestimated, mocked by classmates, dismissed by teachers, ignored by the town council. A fire ignited inside her, sharp and unwavering. "I know enough to protect it, and I'm not letting it fall into the wrong hands." The men lunged. Sam's reflexes, honed by hours of simulated training with the console, were faster than they expected. She dodged a grab, spinning toward the workbench, flipping a chair as a makeshift barrier. Sparks from the overhead lights danced across the walls, illuminating the tense confrontation. A sudden mechanical hum filled the garage. "Engage defensive protocols, Commander Carter," the console instructed. With precise coordination, Sam activated a series of improvised mechanisms she had rigged earlier: motion sensors, alarms, even a few harmless but startling electrical pulses. The men stumbled back, swearing in frustration. "You've gone too far, little girl," the shorter one hissed, eyes narrowing. "We'll be back, and next time you won't have the advantage." Before she could respond, they fled into the night, shadows swallowing their forms. Sam's chest heaved, adrenaline upping. She approached the console cautiously. "Well done, Commander," the voice said softly. "They will test your resolve again. Expect betrayal where loyalty should lie." Sam's jaw tightened. The warning gnawed at her. She realized that someone in Willow Creek or beyond was orchestrating these attacks. Trust would become a rare commodity, even among friends and allies. The following day, whispers of strange activity reached the town. People claimed to see unfamiliar cars parked near the depot. Some reported figures lurking near her garage. Yet, the townspeople, blissfully ignorant of the stakes, dismissed it as overactive imaginations or neighborhood rumors. Even Mark, hesitant and unsure, became an unexpected ally. After seeing the intruders, he admitted, "Okay, maybe this is bigger than I thought. I was wrong to doubt you. Just be careful, Sam." Sam nodded, appreciating the begrudging support. But she knew she couldn't rely on anyone fully not. Yet, the stakes were too high. Over the next few weeks, the console guided her training with increasing intensity. Virtual missions simulated hostile environments, test scenarios, and complex tactical puzzles. Each session pushed her to the brink of exhaustion, both physically and mentally. And through it all, the voice remained her constant companion, a mentor whispering strategies, encouragement, and warnings. One night, as she studied a series of encoded messages from the console, she discovered something unsettling: a pattern in the intruders' behavior. They were not random. Each move was calculated, targeting knowledge and resources that would help them seize the console. Someone or some organization was tracking her. Sam's determination solidified. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't cower. If they wanted the console, they would have to face her, and not just the trained tinkerer they had underestimated, but Saber Shadow herself, a force awakened and honed for this very moment. The night deepened, the streets of Willow Creek silent, under the cold glow of streetlights. Sam sat cross-legged in her garage, tracing her fingers over the console's surface. Her heart was steady, her mind sharp, her resolve unwavering. She had been underestimated her entire life, mocked, dismissed, told she couldn't handle what lay ahead. But now, with the shadows closing in, Sam Carter understood one undeniable truth. She was no longer just the underdog. She was the town's secret guardian, the awakened commander, the living embodiment of Saber Shadow, and she was ready for whatever came next. Weeks passed, and Willow Creek remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in its quiet streets. Sam Carter had settled into a grueling routine, balancing her normal life with the secret mission dictated by the console. Each day she honed her reflexes, expanded her strategic thinking, and learned more about the mysterious AI she had awakened. Yet with every advance, unease coiled tighter in her chest. It wasn't just the intruders from before. Someone else was watching, and their presence was far closer than she had anticipated. It started subtly. A misplaced tool, a door left unlocked, a reflection in the window that didn't belong to her. Sam's instincts, sharpened by weeks of simulated training and real-life vigilance, screamed caution. She realized she couldn't trust anyone entirely, not even Mark. While he had admitted his doubts and offered support, she saw the flicker of hesitation, the uncertainty in his eyes. That uncertainty could prove fatal. One evening, she returned to the garage after a long day of work and training. Her hands were sore, her mind buzzing with calculations and simulations. As she approached the console, she noticed something odd. The front panel, which she always secured meticulously, had been tampered with. Her heart pounded. Someone had been in her garage. "Commander Carter." The voice spoke from the console, steady and calm. "You have been observed. Proceed with caution. Trust is a weapon. Wield it wisely." Sam moved silently through the house, scanning for signs of intrusion. Nothing seemed stolen, but the subtle rearrangement of items suggested careful observation. Whoever had been here knew her patterns, her routines. Someone she thought she could rely on might be compromised. The next morning, she confronted Mark. "Have you been anywhere near my garage when I wasn't around?" she asked, her tone measured but cold. Mark's eyes widened. "What? No." "Sam, you have to believe me." "I want to," she interrupted. "But I can't. Ignore the evidence. Someone's inside. And I need to know if I'm alone in this." Mark hesitated and lowered his gaze. "I swear, I haven't touched anything. I've just been trying to help. I didn't realize how serious this was." Sam studied him carefully. His nervous energy didn't match the calculated presence of the intruders. Still, doubt lingered. Trust is fragile. The console had warned Dot as days turned into nights. The tension escalated. Sam discovered surveillance photos left outside her property, images of her movements, her training sessions, and even her personal routines. Someone was mapping her life, anticipating her every step. It was no longer a question of curiosity. It was a calculated attempt to undermine her. Her training with the console intensified. She ran simulations that tested moral judgment, restraint, and decision-making under pressure. The AI's voice was both a guide and a teacher, pushing her beyond physical capability into mental and emotional fortitude. One night, after a grueling 12-hour session, Sam sat before the console, her fingers trembling from exhaustion. The voice spoke softly, almost comfortingly. "You will be tested, Commander, not just in skill, but in judgment. Sacrifice may be required. Resolve will define you." Sam leaned back, staring at the blinking lights. She thought of her life, the small victories, the quiet perseverance, the countless moments of being underestimated. And now, she faced a challenge greater than she had ever imagined. Betrayal. Her mind returned to Mark. Could he be involved? Unwittingly or not? Or was the threat entirely external? She didn't have answers. Only suspicion. Only the constant hum of the console reminding her that failure wasn't an option. Days later, the intruders returned, this time more aggressive, coordinated, and relentless. They had learned from their previous encounter, anticipating her defensive measures and attempting to outmaneuver her strategies. Sam's skills were tested to the limit. She moved with precision, countering attacks, dodging traps, and using her environment to her advantage. But then, a familiar voice whispered from behind. A warning too late. Mark had followed her, insisting he wanted to help. But the intruders had been waiting. Sam realized immediately that their plans included using him as leverage. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She couldn't let emotion cloud judgment. "Mark!" she shouted, moving to intercept him. He froze. Confusion and fear etched across his face. "Sam, get down," she ordered, pushing him behind a workbench. Sparks flew as a device detonated near the console, sending a shockwave through the room. The intruders were relentless, and Sam realized the fight wasn't just about strength. It was about cunning, patience, and sacrifice. She had to protect the console, herself, and the people she cared about, all at once. Hours passed in a blur of movement, strategy, and narrowly avoided disaster. By the time the last intruder fled, Sam stood amidst scattered debris, her breathing heavy, her hands bleeding from scrapes. She looked at Mark, who was shaken but unharmed. "You saved me," he said, disbelief and gratitude mingling. In his voice, Sam shook her head. "We saved each other. But remember, trust is a weapon. Use it carefully. The next challenge will come, and it will be worse." The console hummed quietly, lights blinking in acknowledgement. "Commander, you have proven your resolve. The path ahead is dangerous. Sacrifices will be required. Prepare." That night, Sam sat alone in the garage, staring at the console. She thought of the intruders, of Mark, of every time she had been underestimated. She realized that strength wasn't just physical or intellectual, it was emotional. The ability to endure, to sacrifice, to make decisions when the stakes were highest, was what defined a true leader. She had been underestimated her whole life, mocked, doubted, and dismissed. But now, with betrayal behind her and the path ahead, uncertain, Sam understood the full weight of her responsibility. She was no longer just the tinkerer from Willow Creek. She was Commander Carter. She was Saber Shadow. And she would face whatever came next with courage, intelligence, and unyielding resolve. Because in a world where trust could be a weapon, only the strong and the wise survived. The days that followed the confrontation left Sam with no room to breathe. Willow Creek felt smaller now, stifling under the weight of secrecy and danger. Each glance over her shoulder reminded her that the intruders could return at any moment. Yet the console hummed steadily, a beacon of guidance in the chaos, its lights pulsing with quiet reassurance. Sam knew she had to uncover the truth. She couldn't fight blindly. She needed answers. She began digging into the history of the console, retracing its origins through dusty archives, old military records, and conversations with retired personnel who had worked at the Willow Creek depot decades ago. Each lead she followed painted a picture far larger than she could have imagined. The console had been part of a covert military program, a training AI designed to identify and cultivate exceptional operatives. Saber Shadow was more than a name. It was a mantle, a title passed down to those the system recognized as capable of extraordinary skill, courage, and intellect. It tracked lineage, aptitude, and emotional resilience. In short, it had chosen her, but there was more. Files she uncovered hinted at corruption, misuse, and betrayal within the original program. Certain officials had attempted to weaponize the AI, using it to manipulate operatives for personal gain. The intruders who had targeted her were likely the remnants of those schemes, or those carrying the program's unfinished agendas. Mark came by that afternoon, quietly watching as Sam spread files and schematics across her garage. He had been uneasy since the last attack, but his loyalty had shifted, his respect for her unshakable now. "You're in over your head," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from his eyes. "But I can see why you've been so relentless. This isn't just a machine. It's alive in a way, and it trusts you." Sam looked at him, appreciation flickering across her face. "It's not just trust, Mark. It's responsibility. I can't let it fall into the wrong hands, not the town's, not the intruders, not anyone's. This is bigger than any of us imagined." Mark nodded. "Then we figure out who's behind this and stop them." Together, they traced patterns in the intruders' movements, cross-referencing them with military records and shipping logs. Slowly, a startling revelation emerged. Someone from Willow Creek itself had ties to the original program. Someone she had never suspected. The voice of the console broke through, calm yet urgent. "Commander Carter, the source of your adversary's knowledge is closer than anticipated. Prepare for exposure and confrontation. You will need both courage and cunning." Sam's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was personal. Someone in her town had been orchestrating attacks, watching her progress, testing her limits. Every challenge, every intrusion had been carefully calculated to intimidate, to manipulate, and to gauge her strength. That evening, Sam and Mark set up surveillance around her garage and the depot, preparing for the inevitable return of the intruders. They monitored the streets, taking careful notes of every unusual movement, every vehicle that lingered longer than necessary. The quiet town of Willow Creek, with its tidy homes and familiar faces, felt like a chessboard, and every passerby a potential pawn or adversary. 3 nights later, the confrontation came not just with intruders, but with the truth itself. A van pulled up outside Sam's garage. Shadow slipped out, moving quickly and quietly. Sam activated her defensive mechanisms, the garage lighting shifting to blinding bursts, alarms echoing through the night. But then one figure stepped forward. Sam's breath caught. It was Chief Wallace, the local law enforcement officer she had known all her life, a man trusted by the town, respected by neighbors. His eyes, however, were cold, calculating. "You shouldn't have come this far," he said, voice steady. "This isn't your world, Sam. The console belongs to us. It's a tool, and you're interfering." Sam's heart pounded, not from fear, but from disbelief. Betrayal ran deeper than she had imagined. She had trusted the town, the familiar faces, the authority she had always respected. And now she realized that deception could exist anywhere, even in the people sworn to protect her. "I trusted you," she said, voice calm but sharp. "And you chose to betray me." "Why?" Wallace smirked. "You don't understand. Saber Shadow is power. Whoever controls it controls more than this town. They control a legacy. You've proven capable, yes. But capability is not ownership. And ownership is what matters." Sam's resolve solidified. "I don't need your permission. I don't need your approval. This console, this legacy, it chose me, and I will protect it." The following moments became a blur of calculated movements. Sam and Mark used every defense, every skill honed through weeks of intense training with the console. Sparks flew, shadows danced on the walls, and the hum of Saber Shadow filled the room, guiding her, bolstering her confidence, reinforcing every decision with clarity and precision. Wallace, despite his experience, underestimated her determination, her ingenuity, and the strength forged from years of being underestimated and mocked. Sam moved with focus, striking decisively, using her environment to her advantage. In moments of crisis, she remembered the countless times she had been told she couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't, and drew strength from those memories. By the time the confrontation ended, Wallace and his accomplices had fled, leaving Sam standing amidst the debris, exhausted but victorious. The garage was a mess, but the console remained intact, pulsing with steady light as if acknowledging her triumph. "Commander Carter," the voice said, gentle yet resolute, "you have faced betrayal, danger, and moral trial. You have endured and prevailed. The path ahead will still test you, but you have proven worthy of the mantle of Saber Shadow." Sam sank to the floor, breathing heavily, letting the weight of the night settle over her. She had faced betrayal, exposed corruption, and survived a direct attack from someone she trusted. And through it all, she had remained true to herself, her principles, and the legacy she had been chosen to protect. Mark sat beside her quietly, admiration and relief evident. "I can't believe what you just did," he said softly. You're incredible, Sam. No one would have survived that, let alone stood tall afterward." Sam gave a small, tired smile. "We survived, and this isn't over. But for the first time, I feel like we're in control. Not them, not the past, not the town's shadows. We're in control." As the sun rose over Willow Creek, Casting golden light across the quiet streets, Sam Carter understood the full magnitude of her journey. She had been underestimated her entire life, mocked, dismissed, ignored. Yet she had risen, facing danger, betrayal, and moral trials with courage and unyielding resolve. She was no longer just the tinkerer from Willow Creek. She was Commander Carter. She was Saber Shadow, and she was ready to lead, protect, and confront whatever darkness still lingered within the town, within the program, and within herself. The journey was far from over. But now she understood one undeniable truth. Legacy of Saber Shadow was hers to command, and she would do so with wisdom, strength, and unwavering courage. The morning after the confrontation with Chief Wallace, Willow Creek seemed unchanged, serene, and deceptively ordinary. Birds chirped, children played in the streets, and neighbors greeted each other with smiles. Yet for Sam Carter, nothing was ordinary anymore. She had faced betrayal, danger, and moral challenges, and she had survived. The town would never fully understand what had happened, or the sacrifices made in its shadows. But that didn't matter. The console sat on her workbench, humming softly, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Sam approached it with reverence. She had learned its secrets, mastered its training, and endured trials that tested not just her skill, but her character. Saber Shadow was no longer just a designation. It was a responsibility, a mantle she had earned. Mark arrived that morning, carrying 2 cups of coffee, his usual skepticism replaced with respect. "I still can't believe you did it," he said quietly. "You faced trained operatives, a corrupt officer, and you came out standing. You're incredible." Sam accepted the coffee, her hands steady despite exhaustion. "It wasn't just me. I couldn't have done it without the guidance of the console and the training it provided. But yes, I endured because I had to. Someone had to protect this legacy." Mark's expression softened. "And you did. You really did." Sam nodded. But her mind was already moving ahead. She knew the intruders hadn't all been captured. The threat still lingered, subtle but persistent. They had underestimated her before, but she wouldn't make the same mistake again. The first step was exposure. Sam accessed the military archives she had uncovered, compiling evidence of Wallace's corruption and the illegal attempts to seize Saber Shadow's technology. She documented the intruders' connections, their patterns, and the chain of command that had attempted to manipulate the program decades ago. Every file, every photograph, every record was assembled with meticulous care. When she presented her findings to the authorities outside Willow Creek federal investigators, military, oversight committees, and cybersecurity officials, they were stunned. The small-town tinkerer, once underestimated and mocked, had uncovered a web of deceit that had remained hidden for decades. Wallace's influence crumbled under scrutiny, his accomplices arrested or exposed, and the remnants of the old program were dismantled, ensuring the AI would be protected. In the quiet aftermath, Sam returned to her garage. The console pulsed softly, almost as if acknowledging her achievement. She traced her fingers over the panel, feeling the weight of the journey, the lessons learned, and the growth she had undergone. "Commander Carter," the voice said, calm and approving, "you have endured betrayal, danger, and moral trial. You have secured the legacy. You are Saber Shadow, in truth and in spirit." Sam smiled, a mixture of relief and pride washing over her. She had been underestimated her whole life, mocked for tinkering with machines, dismissed as too small or too quiet to matter. Yet every challenge, every insult, every moment of doubt had shaped her into someone who could face shadows, human and mechanical alike, with courage and intelligence. Mark entered the garage, leaning against the doorway. "So, what now?" he asked. "You've exposed the corruption, survived the attacks, and proven yourself beyond doubt. you could do anything. Sam considered the question, her gaze returning to the console. Now, she said softly, I ensure it's never misused again. I guide the program responsibly. And I remember that being underestimated doesn't make you weak. It makes you patient, observant, and strong in ways others don't anticipate. Town slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Willow Creek's residents remained largely unaware of the battles that had unfolded in their midst. But for those who had been closest to the event's mark, and the few who learned fragments of the truth, they saw Sam not as the tinkerer, not as the underestimated girl, but as someone extraordinary. Weeks later, Sam stood outside the garage. At sunset, the golden light washing over the streets she had known all her life. She reflected on the journey from fixing an old console to becoming Saber Shadow, from being mocked to commanding respect, from facing betrayal to securing justice. Every step had been difficult, demanding courage, intelligence, and sacrifice. Yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and unbroken. The console, humming quietly behind her, remained a constant presence, not just a tool, but a symbol of perseverance, trust, and responsibility. Sam knew that the mantle of Saber Shadow was not about power or recognition. It was about vigilance, integrity, and the courage to act when others would falter not. As she watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting Willow Creek in hues of orange and purple, Sam smiled. She had been underestimated, mocked, and doubted her entire life. And yet, here she stood, victorious, respected, and resolute. She was Commander Carter. She was Saber Shadow. She was the guardian of a legacy, the protector of truth, and the embodiment of strength forged through trials. And she knew, without hesitation, that no challenge, betrayal, or shadow could ever shake her resolve again. The first time, Sam felt fully at peace, not because the world was safe, but because she had proven that she, and she alone, could meet any darkness with unwavering courage. The story of Willow Creek would never tell the full tale of what had happened, but that didn't matter. Sam Carter had written her own story, a story of perseverance, intelligence, and ultimate triumph. And Saber Shadow would live on, not as a machine, not as a legend, but as the legacy of the girl who refused to be underestimated, and the woman who became unstoppable.